The cat's got their tongue. We've got the lowest inflation rate of all the G8, or I can't remember if it's G8 or G7. Did we kick Russia out yet? I don't know. But we got the lowest rate of inflation in the Western world. We've got the best employment rate. We've had under 4% unemployment for 24 straight months in America because of Joe Biden and the Democrats. Inflation Reduction Act dramatically reduced prescription drug prices for the most commonly used drugs. I had constituents who were paying $600, $700 a month for their insulin shots as diabetics. That's capped at $35 a month in the Medicare program under the Democrats. We did that without Republican support. They want to repeal that. Oh, so you say it's a big tax and spend program? Not at all. We saved billions of dollars while we dramatically reduced prescription drug prices. You know how we did it? We let the market work. We said that the government can negotiate with Big Pharma for lower prices instead of letting Big Pharma dictate the prices to the people of America. The Democrats did that. We did that. And I'm proud to be a Democrat because of who they are. I am. I'm sorry. I work with them. Every day. Nothing to unify their party other than a theocratic agenda. They're theocrats, I'm sorry. I'm headed off to Texas next, where their legislature voted to endorse the 10 Commandments. So we had some MAGA people in the Judiciary Committee and the Oversight Committee. They said, we want to endorse the 10 Commandments. I said the 10 Commandments have been doing fine for millennia without the endorsement of the Freedom Caucus and the House of Representatives. They want to press it. They want to go to the Rules Committee. I go to the Rules Committee. I say to my friend Chairman McGovern, I say, if we're going to vote on the 10 Commandments on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives, we should have to vote on each commandment separately. Okay? And you're not allowed to vote for any commandment you've ever violated either. Because you'll be taking the name of the Lord in vain. How about that? Can't get away with that omnibus package. Mike Johnson, one of them said to me, you're making a mockery of the whole thing. I said, you guys are making a mockery out of the whole thing. Your bill is not only unconstitutional, it's blasphemous at the same time. Blasphemous. And you know what? We hear this every day in, day out. One of them got up on the floor the other day, he said, the moral downfall of America was in 1962 in Engel versus Vitale when the Supreme Court banned prayer in the public schools. We want to restore prayer in the public schools. And I got up and I said, you know what? The Supreme Court never banned prayer in the public schools. As long as there are pop math quizzes, there will be prayer in the public schools, okay? Anybody can pray whenever he or she wants to pray. It's just that the government cannot compose a religious script and compel our kids to participate in it. That's what the Supreme Court said. Chairman Buckley, Mayor Joyce Craig, Executive Counselor Cindy Warmington, John Kuiper, Colin Van Alstern, Senator Becky Whitley, Maggie Goodlander, Senator Donna Soucy, Matt Wilhelm, all the great state senators and representatives, all you delegates to the convention, you local council people and mayors, you executive counselors, whatever that is. I'm delighted to be here today. I am thrilled to be here. I'm here, you can tell, as a true blue, dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. But no, I wanted to start on a bipartisan note by invoking our last great Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, who spoke of government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And of course, we didn't start out that way. In practice, we started as a slave republic of white male property owners over the age of 21. But Thomas Jefferson planted in the Declaration of Independence the critical ideas in the critical ideals that future generations of democracy patriots would successively pick up and translate into reality. If you read the Constitution and the Bill of Rights the way that I do, you will find that the vast majority of the amendments we've had, of the 17 amendments we've had since the original Bill of Rights, have been attempts to translate those ideals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the consent of the governed, all men, we would say all people being created equal, into reality for new generations. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery. The 14th Amendment gave us equal protection and due process. The 15th Amendment banned race discrimination in voting. The 17th Amendment shifted the mode of election of the U.S. senators from the legislatures to the people. The 19th Amendment doubled the franchise in America by giving women the right to vote. The 23rd Amendment gave people in Washington, D.C. at least the right to vote in presidential elections. The 24th Amendment banned poll taxes in our elections. The 26th Amendment lowered the voting age to 18. The whole trajectory of American historical and constitutional development has been towards a more perfect union through greater, stronger democracy for everyone. That's who we are. Okay? And we're not going to stop there. We're not going to stop there because, Tocqueville observed in Democracy in America that democracy and voting rights in our country are either shrinking and shriveling away, or they're growing and expanding. And we're going to get us back on the growth track in America when we get through this Trump thing. We're going to get back on the growth track. We're going to pass an equal rights amendment for our Constitution. Even that's a right to vote amendment in our Constitution. It's 2024. How about we start electing the president the way we elect governors and mayors and state legislators and representatives? Whoever gets the most votes wins. What do you think about that? The Electoral College is an undemocratic relic and remnant of the 18th century. We will defend it against electoral fraud and violence in every case, but we will end up replacing it to move towards real democracy in our elections. We've had 5 popular vote losers become president in our history twice in this century, in 2000 and 2016. These days, the Electoral College can get you killed because of all of the complicated booby traps and phases in the process. You got a bad faith political actor like Donald Trump out there. They will try to turn every phase of the process into another opportunity to cheat and steal the election. Let's just have a real election and see who gets the most votes in America. How about that? We spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year exporting American democracy to countries around the world, writing their new constitutions. The one thing they never come back to us with is, that Electoral College thing you got? That sounds really good. We think we'll import that to our country. So, everything's on the ballot. Democracy's on the line. Freedom's on the ballot. And we know they go together. Somebody asked Lincoln, what's the connection between constitutional democracy and freedom as outlined in the Declaration of Independence? And he said, constitutional democracy is like the beautiful silver frame upon which rests the golden apple of freedom. By which he meant, I think, that you can't have freedom without democracy. The autocrats in Moscow and the kleptocrats and plutocrats in Mar-a-Lago and the theocrats in MAGA with Mike Johnson are not going to protect our freedom. The Democrats are going to do that. That's our job. Sometimes our distinguished colleagues across the aisle are unable to correctly pronounce the name of our political party in its adjectival form. I don't know if you've noticed this. I don't know if you noticed. I'm sure that our distinguished senators in New Hampshire have noticed it. I know Annie Custer noticed it, but they'll get up and they'll make a speech, and then someone gets up and says, that Democrat Congresswoman with her Democrat bill and her Democrat amendment. And for 7 years, I've gotten up like a gentleman, not as a gentleman, but like a gentleman. And I say, Democrat is the noun, okay? Democratic is the adjective. If you're gonna sneer at them, you gotta say the Democratic Congresswoman, the Democratic bill, And you can check this one out on YouTube, but one day I was on the floor and Lauren Boebert, my friend from Colorado, she launched into the Democrat this and Democrat that thing, and I got up and I, explained to her the difference. She doubled down and started doing it more, and then they all got in there, Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, everybody saying Democrat this, Democrat that. So I got mad, I lost my temper, and I said, you guys have this self-imposed political speech impediment, okay? You can't pronounce the name of our party in its adjectival form. It's spreading, it's contagious now. I try to say the name of your party, it just comes out the Banana Republican Party with the Banana Republican Congressman, the Banana Republican bill. So I went home and I told my wife, I said, Sarah, I finally got them back. She said that was an extremely immature response, okay? But now, luckily, I was reading a great book, which I recommend to you highly, by H.W. Brand, the historian at University of Texas, about Roosevelt. It's called Traitor to His Class. Beautiful book. But I learned something remarkable. There's all these FDR speeches in there. He didn't call our party the Democratic Party, much less the Democrat Party. You know what he called us? With a capital D, at least that's the way the historians transcribe it. He called us the democracy. The democracy. So you'd say, the economic royalists and the plutocrats say you invest in the wealthiest people in America. Some of the wealth will dribble down on everybody else. The democracy says you invest in the great American working middle class. We will all rise and prosper together. That's the doctrine of the democracy. Said FDR. That's who we are. That's our legacy. That's our future. That's who we are. Let's dust that off today, my friends. Let's dust it off. Because today, we are the democracy. We are. We are the only party that will stand up for everybody's right to vote, even if they're not going to vote for us. You great New Hampshire activists and local officials and party activists, ever been to a meeting with Democrats where people sit around saying, how are we going to suppress the vote? How are we going to disenfranchise people? That's their whole political model. That's their paradigm. That's not who we are. We believe in participation by everybody. We want everybody voting. We want everybody engaged in politics. And we want to win fairly through competition. The political scientists tell us that there are certain hallmarks to a fascist or authoritarian political party. One is that they refuse to accept the outcome of democratic elections that don't go their way. Another is that they embrace or refuse to disavow political violence as an instrument for obtaining and maintaining political power. Another is that they're organized around a cult of personality around a charismatic or allegedly charismatic figure whose word is elevated above the rule of law and the Constitution. And another is they use the political tactic of demagoguery and scapegoating as a way to try to implant fear in the populace. And everybody got mad at our great President Joe Biden because he said there were semi-fascist currents running through the Republican Party. I'm sorry, if the shoe semi-fits, you semi-wear it, okay? I've told some of my colleagues across the aisle, I said that they're acting like members of a religious cult. I said, when we get through this period, and we will, they're going to be fit only for selling flowers and incense at Dulles Airport, okay? So what's our job? Our job is to go out and to organize, to mobilize, to galvanize the party of democracy and freedom, and then this election won't even be close. Biden beat him by 7 million votes in 2020, 306 to 232 in the Electoral College. We have 16 million new young voters in America in 2024. It is an amazing generation. I've met some of New Hampshire's fine young activists and pages to the convention here. This is a generation that is beyond racism, it is beyond sexism and misogyny, it's beyond homophobia, it's beyond immigrant bashing. Unfortunately, it's a little bit beyond grammar too, but that's a small little bone I have to chew with them. We need to organize them and turn them out in this election. That's what Democracy Summer is all about, that I'm doing with my friend Chris Pappas and more than 100 members of Congress all over America. This is a pro-choice country. This is a pro-environment country. This is a pro-gun safety country. This is a pro-science country. This is a pro-democracy, pro-freedom, pro-constitution, pro-bill of rights country. We've got to go and organize America. That's our job in this election. And what do they have on the other side? What do they have? A bag of tricks, voter suppression tactics, gerrymandering of the elections, the filibuster, manipulation of the Electoral College. That's all they've got. They don't even pretend to have a program or a platform anymore. Their program and platform is whatever Donald Trump wakes up and tells them they're going to do. That's it. That's a scary phenomenon. John Dewey said the only cure for the ills of democracy is more democracy. More democracy. What we're suffering from today is not democracy, it's the impediments to it, the obstacles to it that they're using to choke off the clear will of the majority. 90% of America wants to see a universal violent criminal background check on all gun purchases. The vast majority across the political spectrum. The vast majority of people support women's right to choose their own destiny with their families and with their physicians. And we don't need state legislators in people's bedrooms and in the doctor's offices. And I've been in the state legislature, and I like state legislators, but forgive me, I'll trust the women of America first, okay? You know, I'm gonna have to go, because I got an airplane, but I'm just warming up to talk to these great New Hampshire Democrats. But sometimes my colleagues, like there was a guy in Congress named Trey Gowdy, he got out, he's a smart guy. The smart ones have left. They don't want everything to, I mean, they lose about a member a week at this point. I mean, we could have a majority before this term is up. But Trey said to me before he left, he said, you know, Raskin, you're not a bad guy. The problem with you is you're a liberal. And I said, you're damn right I'm a liberal. The heart of that word is liberty. And I'm a progressive because the heart of that word is progress. But my favorite thing to call myself these days is a conservative. And you know why? Because I want to conserve the land, the air, the water, the climate system, the National Labor Relations Act, the Fair Labor Standards Act, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the Affordable Care Act. Everything that their party of nihilists and authoritarians and conspiracy theorists wants to tear down is everything that we want to conserve and build on in America. We are the party now of the liberals, the progressives, and the conservatives defending democracy and freedom against that cult of authoritarian personality. That's who we are. You know, wherever I go, people say, well, you Democrats have been doing a great job and you're delivering for the people. You're delivering for the common good. But you know what? You don't know how to message so well. You're not messaging right. And I get this message thing wherever I go. So I brought you a message today, so nobody would beat me up about messaging before. It's a message from the people of Maryland. And people think I made it up. I wish I'd made it up, but I just learned this growing up, okay? It's very simple. And this is what we teach the kids in Democracy Summer. Everything you need to know about voting is everything you need to know about driving. If you want to go forward, you put it in D. If you want to go backwards, you put it in R. For Donald Trump and against the Democrats. And we're going to beat them this year. Right? We're going to beat them this year. We're going to turn it all around. I'm going to leave you with the words of two great democracy champions I hold close in my heart. One, the great Marylander Frederick Douglass, who was born about 45 minutes away from where I live, at the White River Plantation. He was born into slavery, and he escaped from slavery to become our great champion of freedom and equality and justice through the Civil War and the Reconstruction. And Douglass said, if there's no struggle, there's no progress. And the struggle may be moral, it may be physical, it may be moral and physical, but there must be struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. There's a message to you from the people of Maryland in the 19th century. And I'll leave you finally with the words of the great Tom Paine, who my son Tommy was named after. And Tom Paine, he arrived in America in 1774, 2 years before the Revolution. He fell in love immediately with the promise of our land. He said, if this country lives up to its values and its principles, it will become an asylum to humanity. Not an insane asylum, mind you. An asylum to humanity, a place of refuge for people seeking freedom from religious and political and economic oppression and discrimination all over the world. And he wrote the organizing document of our revolution, Common Sense, by which he meant the sense we have even if you don't get to go to the Princeton Theological Seminary, but also the sense we have in common when we're willing to speak and reason together without conspiracy theory and nonsense and kings and queens and emperors and czars trying to dictate our language and our destiny. And Common Sense ignited the American Revolution, and George Washington had the troops reading it at Valley Forge. President Biden was talking about that when he went to Valley Forge a month or two ago. But anyway, 1776 was a tough year, and a lot of people were running around saying, you know, you can't beat the kings and the queens and the despots. You can't separate church and state. You need an official established religion. You can't beat the power. And on the side of democracy, we're a lot more people, but everybody's running around saying, what's the message and who's the messenger and all that stuff. And Tom Paine wanted to write a pamphlet to give people hope, to embolden and encourage them. And he wrote this pamphlet called The American Crisis. I just want to quote a little passage for you, and I'm going to update the language pursuant to instructions from my friend, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, who said, Paine was a feminist, and that he was, and he wouldn't mind if I altered the language a little bit so as not to offend modern sensibilities. So anyway, Paine said, these are the times that try men and women's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will shrink at this moment from the service of their cause and their country, but everyone that stands with us now will win the love and the favor and the affection of every man and every woman for all time. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, but we have this saving consolation. The more difficult the struggle, the more glorious in the end will be our victory. Let's make that victory ours in 2024.